Last night, while you were unconscious, your brain deleted things, not randomly, deliberately. It scanned the last 16 hours of experience, categorized what mattered and what didn't, and quietly erased thousands of details you encountered during the day. The font on a street sign, the background noise in a coffee shop, the exact color of a stranger's jacket, the third thing someone said in a conversation that went nowhere. Gone. Overwritten. Not stored, not archived. Somewhere inaccessible, actively removed. And the strangest part is that the more effectively your brain did this last night, the better your memory will be tomorrow. The more you forget, the more clearly you remember. That sounds like a contradiction. It is not. It is one of the most elegant and counterintuitive mechanisms in the entire human brain, and the science behind it changes what you thought sleep was actually for. The answer isn't one thing. It never is. There are layers here in synaptic pruning, in the glymphatic system, in the specific architecture of REM sleep, and in what happens to people whose brains stop forgetting. Each layer is stranger than the last. Let's go. Start with what most people believe about memory and sleep. The popular idea is that sleep is where memories get stored. You learn something during the day, you sleep, the memory consolidates. That's partly true, but it's dramatically incomplete. It frames sleep as a filing process, the brain taking the day's experiences and putting them somewhere safe. What it leaves out is the other half of the operation, the active, deliberate, neurologically sophisticated process of deciding what not to keep. Giulio Tononi, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, spent decades building what he calls the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, published across multiple papers from 2003 through the 2020s, arguing that the primary function of sleep is not memory storage, but memory pruning. During waking hours, the brain forms new synaptic connections constantly. Every experience, every stimulus, every thought strengthens or creates connections between neurons. By the time you go to sleep, your brain has more active synaptic connections than it can sustain long-term. The energy cost of maintaining all of them would be unsustainable. Sleep, Tononi argues, is the process by which the brain systematically downscales synaptic strength, weakening the connections that carry less important information, strengthening the ones that carry more, and freeing up biological resources for the next day. Forgetting is not the failure of memory. Forgetting is how memory works at all. Here's where it gets strange. The brain doesn't just passively allow memories to fade during sleep. It actively cleans itself. In 2013, Macon Nettergaard at the University of Rochester published a landmark paper in Science, revealing a system that had gone entirely undetected until that point. She called it the glymphatic system. During waking hours, cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord, flows along the outside of blood vessels in the brain, but penetrates brain tissue itself only minimally. During sleep, something remarkable happens. The brain's support cells, called astrocytes, physically shrink by up to 60% in volume. This shrinkage opens channels between cells that were too narrow during waking hours. Cerebrospinal fluid floods through the brain tissue itself, washing through the spaces between neurons. What it's washing out? Metabolic waste products that accumulate during neural activity, including beta amyloid and tau protein, the same proteins that form the plaques and tangles found in Alzheimer's disease. The sleeping brain is running its own biological dishwasher, and if you don't sleep, the dishes pile up. Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley, in his comprehensive analysis of sleep deprivation research published in his 2017 book, Why We Sleep, cites data showing that a single night of sleep deprivation produces a measurable increase in beta amyloid accumulation in the human brain, concentrated in the hippocampus and thalamus, two regions critical for memory formation. You stay awake, the waste builds up, and the system that was supposed to clean it never runs. Now, let's tackle the biggest misunderstanding about what sleep stages actually do. Most people, if they know anything about sleep architecture, know that REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, is when you dream. They assume it's the strange, passive, cinematic part of sleep, the spectator phase. In reality, REM sleep is one of the most neurologically active states a human brain ever enters. Matthew Walker and colleagues at UC Berkeley used fMRI imaging to map brain activity during REM sleep and found that the hippocampus, your brain's primary memory indexing structure, was actively replaying memories during REM, not passively. replaying them and simultaneously communicating with the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation and judgment in a specific conversation that doesn't happen during waking hours. Walker's finding, published across multiple papers between 2007 and 2015, was that REM sleep strips the emotional charge from memories without erasing the factual content. You remember what happened. You feel less viscerally distressed about it. The hippocampus hands the factual record to the cortex for long-term storage. The amygdala, the emotional processing center, gets its response to that memory dialed down. This is why, as the saying goes, things look different in the morning. It is not a metaphor. Your brain spent the night literally reprocessing yesterday's emotional memories and reducing their charge. REM sleep is not rest. It is overnight therapy. Here's something else that almost never gets said. There are people whose brains don't forget properly, and what happens to them is one of the most clarifying natural experiments in neuroscience. Post-traumatic stress disorder is, in part, a disorder of sleep-based memory processing. Rachel Yehuda, at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, has spent decades documenting the sleep architecture of PTSD patients and found a specific, consistent abnormality: disrupted REM sleep. The period during which emotional charge is normally stripped from memories is interrupted, fragmented, and shortened. The result is that traumatic memories are stored with their full emotional intensity intact, retrieved not as memories but as experiences, indistinguishable to the nervous system from the original event. The flashback is not a memory malfunction. It is a filing system that never got to process the file. The memory was never properly forgotten into the past. It is still present. And the treatment approaches that work most reliably for PTSD, including EMDR and certain drug-assisted therapies, appear to work in part by giving the brain a second chance at the REM-like reprocessing it couldn't complete during the original nights after the trauma. So here's the part nobody tells you. You are not the same person who went to sleep last night. The brain that woke up this morning is lighter than the one that went to bed. Literally, the glymphatic flush removed waste. The synaptic downscaling reduced the metabolic load of unnecessary connections. The REM processing shifted the emotional weight of yesterday's hardest moments. What felt overwhelming at 11 p.m. feels manageable at 7 a.m. Not because the problem changed, but because the brain that encountered it did. Every night, you run a compression algorithm on the day. The redundant data gets dropped. The high-value data gets encoded more efficiently. The emotional metadata gets recalibrated. You wake up with more capacity because the night deleted what you didn't need. Forgetting is not loss. It is maintenance. Last night, while you were unconscious, your brain deleted things. The font on the street sign, the background noise, the third thing someone said. It deleted them so that today you can remember what actually matters. The face of someone you love, the skill you spent years building, the name of the thing you need to do. Every morning you wake up sharper than you went to sleep because of what was quietly removed. The brain doesn't delete memories while you sleep because it's failing. It deletes them because that is the only way memory works at all. You are not forgetting things in your sleep. You are becoming someone who can remember.